What is something you saw that you weren't supposed to see? A book my mom had in her dresser about forgiving your spouse after infidelity. My permanent record. This was pretty long ago, but I had a summer job doing some maintenance work at my high school before leaving for college, and thought one day, I wonder what they have in those file cabinets in that locked storeroom. It was kind of interesting. They had aptitude test results from tests I don't even remember taking, observations teacher had made, etc. It was pretty amazing and far more in-depth than I would have suspected. When I was 16, I went to this bookstore to get some books and noticed this guy and girl shopping. The guy looked really familiar to me. And when he turned around, I realized it was my friend's dad, and he was definitely not with his wife. He noticed me and I started freaking out since he looked pissed. He tried to bribe me with a few $100, so I took the money, lied, and said I wasn't going to tell anyone, and then told his wife and my friend. That's gotta be the most chaotic neutral thing I've ever heard. I had to have been pretty little, 5 tops, probably younger. My dad was at work and my mom was in the kitchen or something. I was supposed to be playing in my room, and I was for a while. But then I decided I would sneak into my parents' room and jump on their bed because jumping on beds is fun and they would never know. So I successfully snuck in there, climbed on the bed, was about to jump and have a grand time until I see what's on their dresser, straight across from me. My goldfish ball with my clearly goldfish floating in it. Q screaming and crying. The goldfish ball was normally in the living room. I'm not sure why I didn't notice it was missing that day. I wasn't in the living room much, probably by design. Apparently, when my parents woke up that morning, the goldfish was dead. Knowing I'd be upset, they decided to wait to tell me until my dad was home from work, but they couldn't leave the goldfish where I could see it. They also couldn't get rid of it because I would probably want to bury it, so they put it somewhere I wouldn't see it, unless I snuck in their room to jump on the bed. I'd say that plan failed. Would see this couple panhandling outside different stores around town. He would be in a wheelchair and she would push him. A couple weeks ago, I saw the familiar couple on bikes riding behind a shopping center. Recognized them as the couple. Followed them for a couple minutes just to see how he miraculously recovered. Saw them pull up to a nice home on the other side of town. I'm thinking maybe he got better and they'll continue panhandling. Nah, they opened the garage, parked their bikes, casually strolled in. There was a new Chevy truck parked in the driveway. I talked to my cousin, who's a deputy, and he said really nothing can be done. Technically, it's not legal to panhandle in our city, and they're not breaking any laws. That's why they always advise to donate to organizations instead. Unfortunately, it's all too common. I saw a homeless person putting his good shoes on whilst he's about to get into his car to go home after pretending to be homeless. Other employees' salary proved I was being ripped off. Growing up with my little brother and single mom, we never had a lot, but she made sure we always had a safe and decent place to live, and there was always food on the table. She never really ate much. I remember dinners of baked chicken, beef, stew, salmon. It was a lot cheaper a million years ago. Good food, nothing terribly extravagant, but always nutritious. Yet, she barely ever ate. When I was 10, I saw her eating PB&J on crackers in her room after dinner. That's when I realized there was never enough food for all 3 of us. She would cook what we had for my brother and I, and she would eat the bare minimum, always out of sight, so that my brother and I wouldn't worry about the actual level of poverty we were at. I never asked for another material thing from her after that night. I was about 8 or 9 and my parents were going to be out of town, so they had me and siblings stay with a family from our church. Once we got to the house, which was really nice by the way, they had one rule: you can play wherever you want, but the basement is off limits. Me, being the little bastard that I was, snuck down there first chance I got and was supremely disappointed to only find rows and rows of plants growing under lights. I'm sure everyone can add the nudity of a friend to the list, so I'll skip that. Spoiler alert, I learned at 6 that Santa was not really bringing me presents when I had my door cracked open on Christmas Eve and saw my dad and my cat wrestling with a present that my dad was trying in vain to get out of my cat's clutches. The scratches down his arm the next morning confirmed that it wasn't a dream. Sassy never took shit from anyone though. Wow, never met a man named Sassy. Our cat was a little late coming home one evening, unusual for him. I went looking for him, calling his name, not massively loudly, as it was late at night in a built-up area. As I walked around the corner to a car park, there he was. He looked like he was just having a bit of a chat with a fox. They looked relaxed, facing each other, sitting and chilling out. I called his name and he looked at me, seemed flustered, looked back at the fox, then me. Almost as if he was saying, "He's not with me, I don't know him." I called him again and he chased the fox into the bushes before trotting over to me. I'm sure I crossed an animal line. Amish women in a bar bathroom, changing into normal and quite slutty clothing so they could go out for the night. My dad's job offer package when he was starting a new job when I was in high school. I saw how much he makes, which he is very secretive about. My curiosity got the best of me, and he found out immediately that I had snooped and was super pissed. I was just relieved to know we weren't poor. Me, along with a bunch of teens in our neighborhood. We used to host foreign ESL university students for a semester, so they could live with an English family and practice their English while they were studying. Well, one night I was taking out the garbage, and I noticed a couple of boys hanging out along our fence. I shooed them away and went back inside. Next night, same thing, boys hanging out along our fence. I should mention that our house was next door to a church, so it wasn't unusual for people to hang out in the parking lot. But it did bug me. They were leaning up against the fence after dark. I shooed them away again. Then every night for the next 2 weeks. Started to get curious why they'd scatter as soon as they saw me come outside, and why they didn't go somewhere else. So one night, after they ran, I went over to where they were standing and looked toward my house, right into the bedroom window where our current student from Japan was lying on her bed, stark naked, facing away from the window with legs spread, studying for her class. Her room was on a lower level of a split, so the view was perfect to see every detail. That night, I had my wife knock on her door and suggest that she close her curtains at night without going into detail about why she should. She took the hint, and we never saw those kids again after that.